Hello and welcome, my name is Kyle for the win, and welcome to a little bit of a different video here on the channel. Today we are going to be talking about the brand new PlayStation 5, which was officially announced / leaked yesterday during or on a PlayStation blog. We are going to be talking about the system itself, the controller, and everything like that. But this is a very exciting video. I'm very excited to see the new PlayStation 5, see gameplay of it and everything like that. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So on the screen now you can see the full PlayStation 4 PlayStation 5 console, which looks very awesome. As you can see, it's kind of like this blue LED lights, very much has some vents to it, has a obvious play button, but as you guys know or may not know, this actually may not be how the actual console looked or will look when it actually comes out on holiday 2020. This is kind of a dev kit or a different design for the PlayStation 5, so it could look a little bit different to this, it could look a little bit similar to this. We don't know yet. We'll have to see when the console actually releases. But as you can see here, this is basically a prototype version of the PlayStation 5, and it looks absolutely awesome. It looks very futuristic looking and is overall a very cool looking console. Next we have the controller, which I will once again put on the screen right now, and this is actually not the exact PlayStation 5 controller. This actually is a design of the PlayStation 5 controller by someone who's very good with some sort of drafting type program, or someone that's really good with Photoshop. This is just a leaked image of the controller. As far as I know, this is a fake image, will actually not be the real controller when the game actually comes out, but it still looks very cool, and I'm very excited to see how the controller and the console actually looks when it, of course, comes out on holiday 2020. So leaving all those images aside, let's go ahead and talk about the actual physical details of the controller and of the console. So talking about the controller first, because this appears to be what we have the most information on. These 5 or 6 points from the Charlie Intel article talking about the PlayStation 5, which I will leave down below in the description for you guys to check out if you want to take a look at it for yourself. It says the new PS5 controller uses USB Type-C. I'm not honestly sure exactly what this is. I think it might be the USB that we use standard on every console that we have now. If it's a different USB, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure that this is the same type of USB that we use on our consoles now. The PS5 controller has haptic feedback, and what this means is it's a little bit hard to explain. Basically, the movement and the things within the game that you were playing will come into the controller. So with the control sticks, if you're going over a rocky terrain in a vehicle, which is an example they give within the article, you'll feel those rocks on the vehicle underneath your feet, quote unquote, and your controller will shake to kind of feel like you're driving over rocks and so on and so forth. And I assume if you're going down water or you're going down a river, you'll feel the same sort of feedback into the controller, which is very cool. I mean, for me personally, someone who plays multiplayer games all the time, I don't actually have the vibration on when I play shooter games because it distracts me a little bit, and I prefer not to have that vibration while I'm trying to aim at somebody and kill them in Call of Duty or Apex Legends or whatever the first-person shooter might be. So for me personally, this isn't a giant deal, but if I ever play a single-player game like, you know, Days Gone or something like that, it's very cool, and I do like this feature very much, and I think it's a way to make the game more immersive, which I definitely agree with, and I think is absolutely awesome. Next we have controller has now adaptive trigger. So what this means is the L1 and L2 and R2 controls will be different based on how you use them. For example, if you're using a bow and arrow within a game, like maybe Far Cry Primal or something like that, I'm just giving game examples even though they won't be on next gen, but if you use the R2 and L2 buttons to aim on that, the farther that you pull the bow and arrow back, the harder it will be to push it down, which is very interesting, and I think that's a cool new feature for single player games as well. I don't know how it'll work with first person shooters in but I do think it's very, very cool that they're having that, and once you release the bow and arrow, the trigger will be very easy to pull down, which I think is a super, super cool feature. And honestly, the controller is how you get immersed within the game. You can't do any actions, you can't do anything without a controller within the game. So them focusing on the controller and how it works, I think is very, very cool. New speaker system on the controller. I don't know exactly what this means, but the speaker will sound maybe have better quality, maybe do different things than it did in on the PlayStation 4 controller. But again, I'm very interested to see how that works. Personally, I don't use the speaker either, but it's very cool that they're still adding this for those of you who like single player games or like having that speaker on the controller. We have a better battery life, which is great news, because honestly, the PlayStation 4 controller has a terrible battery life. I have it plugged in all the time because it doesn't have a very good battery life. So I'm happy to see that they're improving the battery life. And finally, last but not least, it's said to be heavier than the DualShock 4, which is of course the PlayStation 4 controller, but will be lighter than an Xbox One controller. So I personally love the PlayStation 4 controller. I like it better than the Xbox One controller, but that's just my personal opinion. I'm very excited to see how the controller works, but I personally love the PlayStation 4 controller. It's my favorite controller ever out of any of the consoles I've ever had. So I hope that they keep a similar design to the PlayStation 4 controller, but heavier than the DualShock 4 is not really that big of a deal. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the console itself and what we can expect from the console. So the console is said to be 8K compatible. Will there be 8K TVs out by next winter? I doubt it personally, but that's very, very cool that they're giving us 8K capabilities with the PlayStation 5. Honestly, that is ridiculous. I don't even have a 4K monitor yet, so I haven't even seen what 4K looks like, but the fact that they say that it will support 8K is ridiculously crazy, and I can't even picture that in my mind. It will look absolutely amazing. And the last thing that I want to talk about is, actually there's two more things I want to talk about. There's a quote from one of the developers of this PS5, which states, "Rather than treating games like a big block of data, we're allowing finer-grained access to the data. That could mean the ability to install just a game's multiplayer, leaving the single-player campaign for another time, or just installing the whole thing and then deleting the single-player campaign once you've finished it." That is really, really cool. So basically what they're going to do is, if you have a game that you want to play, you put it into your PlayStation 5 console, if they even have discs anymore for PlayStation 5s. But anyways, you put the disc into your console, and you're like, for me personally with Call of Duty, I like to play the multiplayer first, because I just do. It's just something that I always do. So I can go into my PlayStation 5, say, okay, I want you to download the multiplayer first, and download nothing until that is done. And then I can be like, okay, now I want you to download the whole rest of the game, and that will download at the same time, which is extremely cool. And you can also delete just the campaign portion, or just the zombies portion, or just the multiplayer portion. This is just a Call of Duty reference, but you can delete certain pieces of the game off of your console, which adds more space for other things. Because honestly, and when it comes to Call of Duty, I complete the campaign once and I pretty much leave it from there. I don't really go back and play them. I used to do that all the time, but now that new Call of Duties are always out, I actually don't do that anymore. So that's a very, very cool feature, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this is implemented. And last but not least, the last and final quote is, "Even though it will be fairly fast to boot games, we don't want the player to have to boot the game and see what's going on with the game and then boot it back up," and so on and so forth. Multiplayer game servers will provide the console with a set of joinable activities in real time. Single player games will provide information like what missions you could do and what rewards you might receive for completing them, and all of those choices will be visible in the UI. As a player, you just jump right into whatever you like. Again, this is extremely awesome. I don't have to boot up the entire game. I don't have to do any of that. If I want to see the store within a new Call of Duty game, all I have to do is just select the store portion of the game, and it'll boot up that store portion. Or if I want to play just multiplayer, I can just boot up that section and go straight into it, or whatever it might be. And with the single player games, you can just be like, I want to play this mission, so you just jump right into that mission. Again, the way that they're designing and going about the PlayStation 5 is extremely cool, and I'm once again very, very excited to see how they do this. As for which console I'm personally going to buy, I haven't quite decided yet. to me, it depends on whatever console has Call of Duty exclusive on it. So personally, at the moment, I'm going to buy the PlayStation 5, but if Call of Duty switches over to the Xbox Scarlet or whatever the new Xbox might be, I will buy the Xbox One Scarlet or whatever it's going to be called. So that's just my opinion, and for those of you who are wondering which console to buy, what I always say is you should get the console that your friends play on. If you like to play solo like me, then it doesn't really matter. But if you like to play with friends all the time, then I recommend that you just buy the console that your friends will be on, and it doesn't really matter. But I'm personally going to buy the PlayStation 5 if Call of Duty is exclusive on it, but that's just how I see it. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for the video. Hopefully, it wasn't too long. I try not to keep these videos super long, but when there's so much news and information to talk about, sometimes these videos go over. But anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know, again, what console you're interested in buying, the Xbox Scarlet or the PlayStation 5. Again, I'm going to probably buy the PlayStation 5. If you guys missed any of my other recent Modern Warfare videos, make sure to check those out. We got a brand new Spec Ops trailer yesterday, as well as some Spec Ops information, so that's very interesting. But anyway, guys, leave a like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, make sure to check out all my other recent videos, and I will see you guys all on another Call of Duty video very soon.